So a heavy metals limit was reached, an agreement was signed. What's the agreement? Show us the agreement. Put the agreement on your site. Let's have a look. What could these people possibly sign? It's like going up to your health food store, your organic grocer, and saying, "Sign here, and I don't want any heavy metals above these limits in any of the foods I buy here, any of the supplements I buy here." Your health food store owner is going to go, like, how are they going to change? How can they be in control of anything? The funny thing, and this is, babe, he thinks this is bigger than Ben-Hur. I actually spoke, because I thought this is ridiculous. A lot of people are going, yeah, great. These people have signed it, and that means something. Well, I actually spoke to the people that supply Sun Quarry, that supply Garden of Life. And I asked them, what's this agreement? Like, what did you guys sign? And they said, there's no way in the world we're signing it. Like, there's so many reasons. You'd have to be an absolute idiot to even suggest signing something like this, let alone going through with it. Like, just say they couldn't. And it's not that these companies are trying to get away with something. They're trying to bring out the best possible products, probably. But how can they sign something and then they don't match that, or they just get under it, or they just fall short? Like, that'd be crazy to sign something when someone else in these $1 million lab is testing them and then they don't come up to the standards. Like, it's just, you'd have to get the growers, you'd have to get the actual primary producers, the people producing the food, the people producing the ingredients for these companies to sign the agreement, and they're not signing it. So really, he says it's a landmark big thing that he's done, but really he's done nothing. Really he's done nothing, I thought it was ironic that he also said that he removed the original article, and as part of he had to compromise and he had to remove it. I thought, if something's true, if something's real, if your studies are actually accurate, why remove them? Why remove them? Keep them up there. And he says a lot of people weren't happy with that. Well, damn straight, a lot of people weren't happy with it. Mate, I'd be unhappy too. Mate, keep it up there. If it's real, you're not lying, if there's no problems with it. But if, here's the thing, when it comes to testing heavy metals, and I'm talking about properly calibrated, government-approved technicians, equipment, coming up with false results, and they talked about how some of the results came way off the mark just from seemingly insignificant factors. You're testing minuscule amounts, less than parts per million of something. And not only that, when you're testing heavy metals, how do you know what you're actually finding? He says straight up that they are industrial heavy metals. Well, how do you know they're not naturally bonded in a naturally occurring form? How do you test for that? How are you accounting for that? You're not accounting for that. You're just blatantly saying, no, these heavy metals are not naturally occurring. They are industrial. I thought I'd have a look at what actually, instead of like causing mass hysteria and going, oh, Mike Adams says these are extremely high heavy metals, I thought I'd check out and see what it really is high heavy metal limits. You know what I found? That USA Pharmacopoeia says that for nutritional supplements, 10 parts, not point, 10 parts per million to 3 parts per million on various heavy metals is their limit. But I thought and none of these were over that. Most of them are less than 1 part. Most of them are 0.0 parts. But I thought I'd check out some just average foods that are out there, because I thought this guy's banning a food that I know it's something that the brown rice, the sprouted brown rice protein. I know some people have got serious digestion problems, serious bowel problems. They cannot digest anything. This is one of the only foods they can actually eat. You can see them picking up. You can see them getting better. You can see them actually digesting. And here, this is the actual thing, the one thing that some people can only eat. And he's saying, no, don't eat it. Cause mass hysteria, you're going to die. In fact, I had some people contact me and saying, now I've found the source, listen to this, now I found the source of my heavy metal toxicity. This is crazy. This is crazy. Here are some foods that Mike Adams would have to say should be banned. should be taken off the shelf. We should stop eating. In fact, there's I had one person get back to me and they said, you know what, there's toxins everywhere. There's toxins in the soil, the air we breathe. It's amazing what studies show how much heavy metals we actually breathe in. There's heavy metals in the polar caps. They found toxins in the ice. Like, does that mean we're going to stop drinking water? I mean, the whole world is toxic. You can't run away from it. You can't cause fear like, Mike Adams and his buddies Alex Jones' $40 to $50 million empire of fear-mongering. How about you just eat really healthily and do periodic cleansing to get any heavy metals that you may consume that maybe just breathing in to get them out of your body. Instead of staying away from some of the healthiest foods, some of the only foods that some people can digest. Here's some other foods that Mike Adams would say need to be banned or pulled off the shelf or recalled. You're going to recall spinach. 0.12 parts per million. That's extremely high in bold letters, according to Mike Adams. 0.12 parts per million. Sunflower seeds, 0.4 parts per million. So this is for cadmium. Peanuts, 0.05 parts per million. By the way, when it comes to foods like peanuts, they actually look for cadmium. They've got an affinity for cadmium in the ground, and they look for it, and they can find it, they'll pull it out, and they'd be high in cadmium. Does that mean they're toxic or really bad for you when it's just what they naturally do? And strawberries and things like that. It's funny, just the other week he put strawberries on his website saying strawberries are really good to get heavy metals and toxins and stuff out of your body. But here they came up high. 0.017 parts per million for cadmium and other heavy metals. So it's funny how you consume a fruit to get heavy metals out of your body when they've got heavy metals in them. It's like just back to front, inside out. It's amazing. I saw one study where it talked about, a 12-year-old child breathes in, I can't remember how much it was, a certain amount of cadmium, just breathing in by the time they're 12. I think it was 30 micrograms. So he goes on to thank people for signing this agreement and this petition to make things safer. And I couldn't believe what I read. When I read it, I thought, the goyim, the catechumen, the people that don't know, the ignorant people, would just read it and go, yes, I believe. He said, thank you, we've changed the food industry forever. No, well, that's good if you're thinking that and try to, but you went about it the wrong way. If you've got a problem with different companies, you've got to think that they're doing something wrong. Approach them first, speak to them before you just kind of release, mass hysteria stuff. It says, once again, we are pioneering, I'm quoting, a new course for the future of natural products in the industry, setting new standards, and he's going to be the checker for product safety and total transparency with customers. Let's see how transparent Mike is. In fact, did you know that everything we carry in the natural news store is tested for heavy metals? Sounds great. Every single thing. And check this out. The claims you think they get even bigger. And my own limits are very, very strict, far more strict than the limits we agreed on for the rice company, for the rice protein companies. So, yeah, I thought, man, this guy must have some really good products. So I went on his website, Natural News. I clicked store. I clicked protein. And I couldn't believe what I saw. Yeah, I definitely saw One World Whey. Heaps of that is definitely making money there, if people are buying whey protein. But the very first product, I didn't have to look very far. The very first product was a product called Rejuvenate, strawberry and peach protein. And guess what it's made up of? Non-GMO, means non-organic. So if organic's toxic, how toxic is non-organic rice protein going to be? And organic rice protein. So in case you miss the ingredient list, it's got rice protein as the top 2 ingredients. In case you missed the first ingredient, the second ingredient is rice protein. And it's also got stabilized, non-GMO rice bran full of phytic acid, probably, and a lot of anti-nutrients to block any of those nutrients. And maybe it'll block some of the heavy metals. Rice bran solubles, I don't know what that is. Organic strawberry flavoring. sounds toxic. Strawberry flavoring, vanilla flavoring, a lot of words that I don't even understand. Vitaberry plus peach flavoring. Like, what happened to having organic, raw, whole food supplements? What happened to having really healthy, like, mate, to get a strawberry and peach flavour, there'd have to be some serious flavours in there, because you wouldn't be able to put strawberries in there, even though strawberries are probably really high in heavy metals, according to him. So, yeah, you know, like, you need to clean up your own back door, you need to clean up your own house, have a look at your own web store. Do you know you've got a web store? Is it just making so much money, you're just like sitting back doing videos telling people to take products off the shelf, to have a total product recall on all brown rice protein products, when your own website, the very first product, it's like he's laughing in your face. He's saying, I get everyone else to do a product recall, but not me. My brown rice. In fact, where's the test? Like, forget about doing a product recall on your own. How about you just do a test? How about you test your own products? And you want to test everyone else's products and then come out with these outrageous claims. How about you show us where your own brown rice product came to? That's what I'd like to see. Man. You know, one of the things that Mike harped on and on about lately, because he realised that mercury and some of those other heavy metals actually weren't that high, or maybe someone whispered in his ear and said, Mike, they're not that high. He said, well, cadmium's high. That was the one I found that was high. And, you know, we've spoken about, you know, like, naturally occurring, not naturally occurring. He laughs that off and says, oh, I've totally disproved it from this big fancy diagram I make up, how heavy metals float in the air and all that. But you know what was interesting? I found a couple of studies that show this. Is from the International Cadmium Association. They said that only 5% of ingested cadmium is absorbed. I found this a few times, that very little. Another study said 2 to 6%. Very little of cadmium. It has a hard time absorbing it. So peanuts do absorb it, humans don't. The average daily intake for non-smokers is 10 to 25 micrograms. Smokers inhale about 1 to 3 micrograms of cadmium daily. This is the equivalent. So this is equivalent of 0.3 grams of cadmium ingested for a 30-year-old person, but only 0.015 is absorbed. And I've got a whole lot of other different examples of people getting things wrong. When this is government approved, people that really know what they're doing, you know, testing for heavy metals. Errors can occur in testing and managing levels so close to the detection limit that it can create great variances, even up to 50%. The amounts, and you know, by the way, this is kind of groundbreaking. There is good news. There is hope. We actually tested our brown rice protein. In fact, we got it tested not in a government-approved lab, but in a lab in America that tests all brown rice products that come into the country. And our heavy metal limits, for the most part, didn't come up to anywhere near about 50%. They came up to about 50%. So mercury was like not 0.04, 0.02 parts per million, and so forth. It came up pretty low. I won't say they weren't there, but they were, you know, almost next to what Mike Adams would call next to zero, almost undetectable. It was pretty low. Maybe it's the pristine conditions it's grown in. But so great variances up to 50% can occur. The amounts are similar. So here's an example to taking a cube of sugar, chopping it. So a cube of sugar, chopping it into 1,000 pieces, taking one of those pieces that you've chopped into 1,000 pieces, and chopping it into 1,000 pieces, and then testing that final piece. You'd have to get things really accurate. So, where do we go to from here? What do we do? Yes, we're in a toxic world. You know, I had one really smart email back from a customer, and she said, you know, the world is toxic. Everywhere we go, we're toxic. Instead of fear-mongering, and instead of, you know, like we should do the best thing we can by living healthfully, eating foods like cholesterol-rich foods to bind to heavy metals, chlorella, herbs, doing cleansing like bowel, liver cleansing, flushing things out, making sure that anything comes in is easily pushed out. You know, it was ironic because, again, Mike Adams, I hate to use his name, compares these foods that people are getting really good results with, he goes, oh, I was shocked because they had what he calls significant amounts of heavy metal in his laboratory using his tests. But then he says, oh, when I tested, like some of these processed foods, they came up with very little heavy metal. Well, they'd come up with very little of anything. They're processed foods. I mean, they're processed to death. There's nothing in them. Of course they're going to have nothing in them. Like, is this the new health food industry? Yet you're selling things like Rejuvenate, which has got all sorts of flavourings and chemicals and isolated vitamins and minerals, and that's healthy. So I think that that's not healthy. And maybe we should have a debate, or maybe we should have a limits for what we could sell on our websites and what is actually healthy and what is actually not healthy. Because what we'd find is a lot of things on the Health Rangers website are actually not healthy. Well, most people would agree that these aren't healthy. They wouldn't pass most people's scrutiny. I mean, taking whey protein just off the bat doesn't matter how how heavy metal free or how clean he claims it is. Most people still are not going to buy it, unfortunately. Maybe a lot of people will, I don't know, but I think a lot of people won't. And I'm warning people not to, because you're going to get all mucusy, you're going to get all bloated, you're going to get all constipated, you're going to become acidic, you're going to have disease. You're better off getting raw organic milk and making yogurt and getting the whey from that, the liquid part, or butter or milk and things like that. You're much better off doing something like that. So keep your eyes open. Don't be fooled by smooth talking marketing gurus. God bless you, and may you prosper and be in health.